Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gertis. I'm a management professor, and I've been tracking what's been going on in Ukraine since about day 85. In fact, it was day 85. That's my first video if you go all the way back. Um, I've been tracking since before that. I wrote an ebook about Zelensky. It's on Amazon Kindle. And so I was tracking daily, and eventually I decided, hey, I'm going to put these on YouTube and try to keep people informed because we had kind of lost interest in the West. I mean, you don't see a lot of coverage, and so that was my motivation. So 200 days later, here we are, and I'm just fascinated. Today, we're going to be talking about Ukrainian innovation, how amazingly brilliant the Ukrainians have been at innovating during this war and coming up with something new and novel in order to take the fight to the enemy. So we're going to start with this very weird story, and this is a follow-up from the last couple of days. There have been 21 cases of threats to Ukrainian embassies. What people will do is they'll put a package together with like animal eyes, like cow's eyes or pig's eyes or something, eyes of animals addressed to the embassy in Madrid and 12 different countries. The Daily News also talked about this as well. This is what the package looks like. We're not going to see the eyeballs. That would be a little gross, but this is some kind of, I don't know, what they're sending some kind of message. If you know what the message is, tell me. Maybe you see something I don't see, something about the mob or whatever. I don't know. So that's what's going on there. Okay, Mariupol, their satellite pictures of Maxar technology has shown images of Russia building an army facility. I talked about this yesterday in the middle of Mariupol, amid the rubble. There's also an enlargement of the trenches for mass graves. There's also this little bit down here. Russia has been coercing the Mariupol residents it forcibly deported to parts of Russia and occupied Crimea to provide so-called testimony claiming that Ukrainian defenders were behind its most egregious crimes. Now, this is why the Russians don't believe when they're showing actual, like Bucha, like the videos in Bucha. It's all made up, right? Because they do this thing, and a liar doesn't believe someone else. So that's probably what's going on there. But the Ukrainians are getting really smart and they're getting efficient. And what I mean by that is, I was talking about their innovation and how just crazy smart and innovative they've been. Energy facilities were hit in Kyiv, Vinnytsia, Odessa regions. There's missile strikes. But the terrorist country, Russia, again tried to implement its criminal plan to immerse Ukraine into darkness and cold, and it didn't work. Why? Because their missile strikes are getting better and their returning power generation is getting more efficient. And so I was just thinking as I was looking at this, like Russia's going to have to figure out something else in order to terrorize them because they're getting better at rebounding. And so here's another one. On December 5th, the Russian occupiers launched a massive missile attack. More than 70 missiles were fired. In total, more than 60 were shot down. So they're getting better at air defense and they're getting better at turning the energy system back on. So a few days ago, they were at 27% deficit for energy supply. The day before it was 30. The day before that, it was 33. So they're getting better and better. Zelensky says, I want to thank the air defense forces, our power engineers, and our people. The air defense forces shot down most of the missiles. The power engineers have started to restore electric supply. Our people will never give up. Glory to Ukraine. And so why are they getting better at this and what's going on? Well, here's the UK Ministry of Defense. In recent months, the number of sorties conducted by Russian tactical combat aircraft over Ukraine has reduced significantly. Russian aircraft now probably conducts tens of missions per day compared to the high of up to 300 per day in March. Why? Well, they're getting shot down. The decrease in sorties is likely a result of continued high threat from Ukrainian air defenses because they're getting better and better at it. They're not just getting better equipment, but they're actually getting technical proficiency. And once you practice something for a period of time, you tend to get better at it. So that's what's going on there. Okay, so a few days ago, air raid sirens went up all over Ukraine as planes from Engels 2 Air Base started to take off, and they turned around and came back to base, and nobody really understood exactly why or what happened or what the cause was. Well, today, as a follow-up, we're seeing this article here. So strikes deep inside Russia highlight Ukraine's tactical ingenuity. And this is what I wanted to talk about with the ingenuity. Video from Russian social media showed a blast at the Engels 2 Air Base in Russia's Saratov region, a city just 150 miles from Moscow and Vladimir Putin's Kremlin. So that's what's really interesting about this. The hit was so far. Like, let's look at the map. Here's a map of Ukraine. Here is the border of Ukraine. You see this? Okay. all the way around, including Crimea. And here is the border of Ukraine distance to Engels Air Base. Okay, now that's about the same distance from the border to Moscow. And that's really, really interesting. So they apparently hit this airbase with some kind of drone or something, and it wasn't even a significant strike. It was just enough to show them we can do it. But if they can do it there, what's to stop them from doing something in Sevastopol or being able to hit Moscow? That's really, really fascinating. And I think that's a psychological blow to the Russians, or to hit the Kerch Bridge again. Okay, now this article was really interesting in another way. If you don't know what the Budapest Memorandum is, it's really in 1994, I believe it was, where the Ukrainians gave up their nuclear missiles. The Americans, the British, and the Russians guaranteed their borders. Now, with that as a backdrop, let's read this quote. On Budapest Memorandum anniversary, collective guarantees for the Russian Federation topic looks intriguing, but if Moscow really needs it, Ukraine can guarantee Russia's Russia's security in exchange for Moscow's complete nuclear weapon renunciation. We can sign a contract in the same city in Budapest, Hungary. Now, he's driving a point. Russia is violating the Budapest Memorandum by invading their border. They were supposed to be the ones protecting their border. You hear a lot about the Minsk Agreement, the Minsk Agreement, the Minsk Agreement, but the Budapest Memorandum was wantonly violated well before the Minsk Agreement. So this is really a great thing for them to be highlighting. And here we are. Here are the principals shaking hands at the time in 1994 when this trading nukes for security took place. All right, let's keep going a little bit here. This is a little bit more about Engels Air Base. I'm just going to skip over that because we're going to go and have some fun with Russian state media. Here we are. Okay, so the Putin pays a visit to the Crimean Bridge 2 months after the explosion. So we get treated in Pravda to seeing him drive a car on a bridge. I mean, that's really exciting stuff. Now, I think that now that you have those drones, you might want to think about the Kerch again. That would be quite an insult to Putin. Next, retired U.S. intelligence officer says Russia will win in Ukraine in summer of 2023. Okay, this guy, Scott Ritter, he's all over Pravda and RT. And so this tells us that he's one of the very few people that is saying this kind of thing. There are dozens or hundreds of U.S. Officials for every one of this guy that there are saying exactly the opposite. And if you really were just hard up to get in press, if you're an academic needing to be published, you could always publish an RT. Just say stuff that's pro whatever the Russian line is, and there you go. I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm just saying that, I mean, it's really not hard to get published in RT if you're just spouting the Russian line, because they'll publish anything that seems to ratify whatever their Russian propaganda talking points are. Okay, finally, it is the holiday season, and I would urge you to look below in the description of this. I have a link to both Samaritan's Purse, and I also have a link to this. And this is a Ukrainian businessman that is selling these things online in order to be able to provide for himself and his family. And I think you ought to consider where your money would be best spent. I mean, Samaritan's Purse is a great charity, and from the first day that I've been doing this, I put that Samaritan Purse link. I'm putting this link on there as well. Just think about this at the holidays. I mean, it must be brutal to be going through this kind of thing at any time, let alone the holidays. Listen, thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you for caring about Ukraine and being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.